Welcome back to the Better Men, Better Ball Player podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cobb. I want to thank you for joining us on our 113th episode of the podcast. We get a chance to talk to Coach Greg Mamula from the University of Delaware. Coach Mams from UDel, it's his first year with the Blue Hens after coming from a stint at Florida Atlantic University where he was the associate head coach and recruiting coordinator. During that time at FAU, they won 3 NCAA regional appearances, won 2 Conference USA titles. In 2019, he was the Conference USA Assistant Coach of the Year. Prior to FAU, he was assistant coach at University of Cincinnati. Prior to that, he was head coach at West Chester University, Division II school in Pennsylvania. Was the coach of the year there. Took a team to the World Series. And had an incredible 3-year stint at West Chester. Coming back to University of Delaware because he was an assistant there from 2002 to 2006 under Coach Jim Sherman. Really fortunate to talk to Coach Mams and talked a great deal about his upcoming ABCA topic, which is about on-field BP, and it was a lot of fun, but it was great to talk to him about the culture that he's trying to set in place and the leadership training that he's put in place at Delaware, and we touched base about that. So really appreciate those conversations and appreciate the time that he put into it, just like I really appreciate the guys over at Netting Pros for helping spread our word and being our gracious sponsor. Netting Pros are improving programs one facility at a time. Netting professionals specialize in the design, fabrication, installation of netting for backstops, batting cages, dugouts, scoreboards, BP screens, and ball carts. They also design and install digital graphic wall padding, windscreen, turf protectors, dugout benches, dugout cubbies, and more. Netting professionals continue to provide quality products and services to many recreation, high school, and college fields, facilities, and stadiums throughout the country. Contact them today at 844-620-2707 or info@nettingpros.com. Visit them online at www.nettingpros.com or check out Netting Pros on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for all the latest products and projects. Big thanks to Will Miner and the guys at Netting Pros, and thanks again to Coach Mams for taking some time. Enjoy it. Here he is, head coach, University of Delaware, Coach Greg Mamula.
You know, it's first time Division I head coach for me, Trey. So it was a lot, jumping in the summer, doing the recruiting, hiring assistants, just getting the schedule set for the fall. It feels like just now I've been able to finally, catch my breath from all of it. It's been kind of a whirlwind, but it's been the players have been awesome. My assistants have been awesome. The support staff at Delaware is amazing. So it's been as smooth as it can be. It's never smooth, right? You're drinking
right,
goes, but as smooth as it can be.
So, like you mentioned, like the difference in level. Like, what was the biggest difference? What's your biggest difference?
You mean between Florida Atlantic and Delaware?
Yeah, but you said your first Division I job.
Okay, well, yeah, I was a Division II head coach at West Chester previously. Yep. And I guess the biggest difference, that was 13 years ago. So a lot has changed, obviously, Trey, in college athletics. But the biggest difference has to be the now having full-time assistants. When I was at West Chester, I had a volunteer and a part-time that made a couple $1,000. So having 2 full-time assistants in the office, and actually our volunteer is in there full-time as well. So really 3 guys working full-time. And then it's unbelievable the amount of support staff we have at Delaware, 2 full-time nutritionists, 2 full-time psychologists, our own strength coach, academics, the support staff is big time. So that's been the biggest difference for me is, I guess, learning how to work with, manage, divide the work, amongst the assistants, that sort of thing. When you're a Division II head coach, you're kind of doing it all, right? Like I'm the strength coach. I'm doing the compliance. You're doing the field. You're doing the scheduling. You're doing the recruiting. You're doing it all. So definitely have had to learn how to delegate.
So like, yeah, like I'm just thinking like how you're able to like you're then like having meetings that kind of hold that everybody kind of accountable to like the job that and the vision that you want for the program.
Yeah, no, we met a lot before we got started, with the recruiting. This is our plan. Let's put it in writing. This is who we want to be, who we want to recruit. And then the same, obviously, with our program. This is how we want to run practice. This is how we want to do, the lifting part of it. And, it comes down now to a daily meeting. We meet around 10 o'clock every morning as a staff just to make sure we're on the same page and updated with all the recruiting and player development and what we're going to do at practice. And, so everybody's together and moving in the same direction.
Where did you start? Like where, like when you think about those meetings, what you're doing, like you said, all these things, like where
Yeah.
was it like we started?
Well, it's got to start with recruiting, right? Recruiting never stops. Got the job around June 1st, right when the recruiting's starting to heat up. So, and I was fortunate. Typically, this day and age, Trey, as you know, when you take over a program, usually it's over recruited, over rostered, and you're the one that's got to come in and kind of clean up the mess of your predecessor. I was fortunate. I walked in, we had roster spots, we had scholarship money available. We didn't have to get rid of players. So we could go out immediately and get some transfers to come in and we think are going to make a big impact for us this spring with the program. So that was definitely the starting spot, was getting the roster secured for this current school year.
I mean, you talked about like getting the right people. Like, does it matter of then like, hey, we like the kind of recruit that wants to be here? Like, is that what it was? Like, you kind of revolve that conversation around like, here's who the guys that we want that was going to help us.
No, you know what? I've kind of, I guess, evolved with getting the guys that want to be at your school. I used to say that all the time, and I've moved away from that. I think sometimes that can be a trap, actually, Trey, because, many times the guys you want maybe aren't thinking your level. They're thinking higher. And sometimes it takes convincing and selling and just good old fashioned recruiting of those kids. So I've moved away from that. Like it helps, but that's not a must for me. In fact, I think a program like Delaware that's been around 500, recently, but certainly has a much higher ceiling than that. Like most of the kids we need to win at the level we want to win at probably aren't overly interested in us until we can get them on campus and sell them on our vision and they really see our facilities and see where we're headed.
So it's just, So I was thinking just your plan was then like, let's just try to get them on campus, get people here so we can then, like you said, sell them on the vision and so they can see it. Like you said, I mean, even just to seeing the support staff, I mean, like, my goodness, dude, you have your own strength coach, your 2 nutritionists, like just even the knowledge there.
Yeah.
A lot of
people were surprised. I was surprised when I came back. I had coached at Delaware in the early 2000s.
Right.
The athletic department has really transformed itself to being big time. So I was surprised when I came back and interviewed that everything that was happening facility wise, support staff wise, and the recruits are too, when they walk in and see our weight room and training room and academic area and student athlete cafeteria, it's an eye opener for them. Nobody's really expecting the University of Delaware to have the facilities that we have until they can see it with their own eyes.
It's good, man. It's great. So now you got the guys, you got your roster set, like what's step 2? Like, where do you go from there? And as you're, like you said, you're kind of building from practices and where do you go from there?
Well, when you say that, like, get the right guys in place, so the best guys we could get for this year. And then it's now about changing their expectations because the returning group, they're used to being 500. So now we have to change the expectations to that of a winning championship program, Trey. And that's not an easy thing to do. As I tell the guys, it's going to be an uphill battle. Everything worthwhile is uphill. And this fall was certainly uphill this preseason. This winter should be uphill. The season should be uphill. It should be a fight because we're trying to change, again, the expectations of the players that we're not going to be a 500 program anymore. This is going to be a championship level program. We've had to change the way we play, playing more aggressive, more focused, playing harder, more attention to detail, more competitive. That's been kind of the focus of our fall. So that when you say the next step, that's what the next step was for us.
Creating those expectations.
Definitely.
So essentially, like, here's the vision of what we're trying to do this year and kind of like the next 3-year plan.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, as human beings and athletes, we're typically going to resort to what we know and our comfort level, our past history, and we're trying to change that for these guys. We're going to change that. We are changing that
every day.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. So now we've got guys in here. We're trying to build those expectations. So like, what does it look like now? I guess that comes down to the day to day, right? It comes down to like your daily, schedule, like what's, expectations of practice, expectations, weight room, grades, the whole nine.
Yeah. Yeah. Along with all that stuff, and our guys have been great, very receptive. They've done everything we've asked this fall, a big part of that. And I'm just a believer, Trey, doing this 23 years now, that guys get tired. It's a long school year. It's a lot of baseball. It's a lot of work. And it's the teams when April, May roll around in college baseball. It's the programs where the guys who genuinely care about each other, when that happens, when the guys care about each other, those are the teams to me that keep pushing through, the tired body, the tired mind, and just want to see how far they can go. Can we win a championship? Let's do this for each other. If you want to call that culture, that's culture. Most programs, I think, get to April, May, and the guys are tired and don't really want to fight through it. Just kind of go through the motions to get to summer or summer baseball sort of thing. So that's kind of the step right now, is the guys to genuinely care about each other and know each other. And we've spent, a good amount of practice the last 10, 15 minutes of every day. We try to spend with the guys getting to know each other, just again, so there's a higher care factor for one another and a genuine like for each other.
You mind taking like taking me through that? Cause like the last 10 minutes, is it something like a hot seat kind of thing? Like that, as soon as like the hot seat where you kind of talk about it, or is it like, your homework, giving homework for somebody? Like, can you run us through a little bit of like, what do you find is the best way for kids to get to know each other?
Yeah. So we have 2 parts when we're on the field each day. We'll do a hero hardship highlight.
Yes.
Where, I stole that from Jeremy Sheetinger, who I'm sure stole it from somebody else, as we usually go in this profession, Trey. But, we'll have 2 guys typically at the end of the practice get up, and it's been awesome. When guys make themselves vulnerable and open themselves up like that, it just brings on another level, I think, of, again, care about one another. When you start to, many of these guys have known each other 2, 3, 4 years, live with each other, and guys will say stuff in the hero hardship highlight that they didn't even know about that guy, so you get to know somebody deeper. So that's part of it. And then we're not having captains. We are doing leadership training. So at the end of each practice, we'll have 1 or 2 guys, based from John Maxwell's book, The 21 Laws of Leadership. I'm missing a word out of that title. I can't remember. But each guy has known in advance what law of leadership they're going to teach that day, and they'll stand up and teach it to the group. And that's great. But what matters most is, Trey, can they apply it to us as a baseball team, to them as a baseball player, how it's going to help them and help us in leadership. And the guys have been awesome, with that stuff. So that's the last 10, 15 minutes every day. And then the other part of it is, after every time in the weight room, one of the players breaks it down, and, like a lot of good programs, we tell them, hey, pick out somebody or something in particular, call out some teammates, something you saw good today, a positive, catch somebody doing something well and call them out in front of each other. So that's been the team building, the care building, if you want to call it that we've implemented, Trey.
I love that. And you call out, you praise what you want. Absolutely. And then, so again, calling out at the last 10 minutes in the weight room, after you break it down, calling those guys out. Are they looking for specific things? Like, is it the 21 laws that they're kind of looking for, that you're saying, I mean, I really like how you did this? Or is it just kind of, or they have other specific things that they're looking for when they call them out?
Depends on the individual.
Yeah.
You know, you get some guys that want to stand up there and talk and go on, and you know, their teammates enjoy it, and other guys, you know, they don't like the spotlight on them and they just try to get it over with. So you get a wide variety. If they can tie it in with the 21 laws, man, that's awesome. That's happened a couple times. Probably not as much as they could, but it's all, you know, it's all good. Everything, you know, it's a positive, and who doesn't? Everybody likes to be praised, especially in front of their teammates, for something they did special that day.
For sure. No, that's super cool. That's super cool. I love it, especially at the last 10 minutes. I think you hear a lot of our guys at the end, but being able to take the time at the end of the practice too, like almost like finishing on a high note, you know, all the time. You're really kind of doing that too. So that's a nice way of ending it, for sure. 21 Laws of Leadership. That's a great book. Talking right from the get-go, just get them.
Yeah.
So here's a question. So like, do you foresee, like, you know, each person's going 21 laws, and so when all the laws are done, do you foresee something else, or what do you kind of see that going once the 21 laws? And
well, we just finished number 21 on Sunday, Trey, so I'm open for suggestions. If we got to keep it going when we get back together in January, so I'm open to ideas if you have any for me. Like, we got to keep it going, you know, like the leadership part is that important to me, not just for our team. You know, it's important obviously in a team setting, but again, we're all leaders. These guys are going to be even more so, you know, moving on in their life, the leader of a family, the leader of a household, the leader of a business, you know, so it's important stuff that's going to carry over hopefully for life.
Oh yeah. No, I love it. I totally agree. So like, when you talk about leadership training, is that the only, when I say only, but it's like every day, which is not only, that's the leadership training. So the part at the end, right? So like, that's always part of every day. Every day you're together. Yes.
Correct. Yeah. And again, it's only as effective as the guys make it, but it's only as effective also, Trey, as we continue it going and go back to it and go back to the laws of leadership. You know, if the coaches put emphasis on it, the players typically do as well. As you know, if we never mention it, it probably is going to die. So we've got to keep it going. And it's a constant. It will be a constant in the program here at Delaware.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like you could even talk about, again, the application of it. Now, second time through, we kind of know the laws. So now, like, you just maybe focus on the application, or like what they have seen, and maybe what's good and what's not good. You know, like, here's an example of it. Here wasn't an example of it. You know, like those kind of things. If the application of it, just to continue, because they already kind of know it now. They know the leadership of it. But super good book too. It's a heavy one too.
I'm of the opinion, Trey, that, you know, and it's the reason we're not having captains now is I think most guys are used to, in a baseball setting, an athletic setting, okay, this guy, these three guys are the leaders. They're the captains, and nobody else feels like they have any responsibility there. And what we're trying to get them to understand is we are all leaders. You know, we can lead in different ways, and that everybody is accountable for that. You're not off the hook because you're not a captain. You know, in essence, we have 35 captains on our team.
Absolutely. Now, there's a great book, and I haven't got to read it, but I have to. It talks about those and the different types of captains, and just different kind of leaders. It's such a good book. Purchased great things about it. Captain's Class. But no, I couldn't agree more. Like, I truly like, and a lot of times even the worst too about the captains is like just because they're the best players, they're the captains. Really, just that's not even. There's such a big misconception of what captains are.
Yeah. The other thing I'll add to Trey with it is it's important to me. It's important to us as a staff that the players feel like this is their team. Again, this goes into, the care part and the end of the season part where this isn't us standing up in front of them constantly. Like we want them in front of each other as much as possible. Again, all great programs strive to be player led, and this is just another step in that direction.
That's right. Yeah. Just taking more ownership, 100%, taking ownership of their careers, ownership of all those things. Yeah. Taking ownership of like the team. You're going to be more prideful, absolutely. When did this kind of like you said, like it's part of what we do every day. It's something that will always be like, this started at Westchester. It was something that was at FAU. Like, where was this part of your process? Where did this kind of change, or has this always just kind of been what you do?
All right. Well, ironically, we're doing a podcast right now, and this idea, I'm a podcast guy. I'm not a good reader, so I'm way more auditory. You say your elementary ed background. My undergrad degree is elementary ed also, Trey. So
there you go.
I'm definitely way more of an auditory learner. So my car ride to and from work when I'm recruiting is constantly podcasts. I find myself gravitating to leadership, coaching type of podcasts. I've listened to some of yours. In fact, I'm a podcast guy, but every team I've ever been a part of, I was a captain in college my senior year, and every team I've coached, the 22 years I've coached, there's been captains. And I was listening to a podcast probably about a year ago from Todd Interdonato, head baseball coach at Wofford. And I stole this very idea for him and his thought process. And I'm paraphrasing and I'm probably going to get this wrong. So if you listen, Todd, I apologize, but he felt like naming guys captains put undue pressure on those guys. And I remember him saying something to the effect of, I want my catcher out there focused on calling the right game, receiving, blocking, throwing, getting hits, not on worrying about the other 34 guys in the team that he's supposed to be in charge of. And from that, I actually went back and started to look at schools I was at statistically and started to look at the captains. And many guys had better seasons the year before they were captains, and their numbers went down. I'm like, there's probably something there. You're hurting many of these guys by making them captains. They feel more pressure that they've got to do more now instead of just being themselves as a player. And then he also talked about doing the leadership training, and it really stuck with me. And I thought, you know what, if I ever get to be a head coach again, that's what I'm going to do right there. I like this. And, now that I'm a few months into it, I don't see myself doing it any different.
That's awesome. No, well, that's super cool. It'd be great to have Coach on too. We'll have to maybe hook that up and maybe see if he come on talk about that as well.
No, get him on. He's great. I don't know him well at all, but I've listened to him on podcasts and I've read some of his stuff. He's outstanding.
Yeah, that'd be great. Always willing to talk some good baseball, man. That's it. And that's exactly, and that's why I'm glad we were connecting. That's what it's a big reason for the podcast and really why it is what it is. It's the mission. It's what I love to hear. I just love to hear that and how it is. It's like they're going to be leaders off the field a lot longer than they are on the field, as another perspective, another thing that I love to hear. And I so believe as well. But man, that's super cool. That's super cool. The things that we do, man, awesome. Pretty awesome. Yeah, I would just thinking more like, have you thought like, what would it look like, come springtime? Is it something that you will do after a game, before a game? Is it be a weekly thing, or I'm just kind of wondering what your thoughts are there come springtime when you start playing.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the feel on that. Right now, my first thought is I don't want to talk to the guys after the game. I've never been a big fan of the coach getting the team together and telling them what they did well and what they did wrong. To me, I'm gonna take notes during the game. I'm gonna sleep on it, think through it, and I know from past experience, probably 2/3 of what I wrote down or what I would have said after the game, I'm gonna be like, you know what? It's not even important. Why bring it up? It's not gonna make a difference, good or bad. Let's bring up these points. So I've already told the guys, like, I want them to process the game themselves and to evaluate what they did well as a team, as an individual, what we can improve on, and then we'll meet the next day and talk about it. So I don't foresee us doing the leadership training or any of that stuff after a game. Let's get together, break it down, clean up the dugout, break it down, and head on our way, and then do it the next day. But I certainly see us doing this, continuing the leadership stuff after practice come springtime.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it just because, like when the results start getting there and, the games are, just how the season can get, I've always found like when we did find like a leadership council once a week. It just gave guys it kind of created this space to talk about those things, and gave us a chance to reflect and set goals and just touch base. During the spring, it just gets tough when you're throwing in those games and stuff like that. But yeah, and I love the philosophy there of just like letting them, because I mean, everybody knows typically why we lost, or this guy just bailed on the mound and he's great. He had a great day, and we won. So it is good to kind of get out there, get guys maybe some work after the game, and they need to recover, or, whatever, for sure. It's so super. It's just great because I think it's such a valuable piece, especially I think in your area, like where in your situation where you're trying to come in right away, set a tone, set the culture up, and just kind of, you're just like, and you're killing it from the start. There's something that you feel like you like now that you know what you do, like you'll never do it anywhere different.
Well, hopefully, it evolves. And
well, sure.
I'm sure, I'm a rookie Division I coach, Trey. I'm sure I'll improve and get better and consider myself hopefully a lifelong learner. So hopefully it evolves. But again, I foresee myself going with the leadership training over the captain thing. And that's not, obviously there's great captains. There's great programs that have captains. This isn't the only way. This is just the way I've chosen and the way I see it going.
Yeah. In the way that you believe, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that's really cool is like that, just when you believe, you're like living it, like, and it's part of what you've chosen to be. And, this is their identity of the University of Delaware baseball team.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. Just thinking in terms of like, again, that season and kind of preparing for the season and kind of what you're doing is like, in terms of like the levels, and again, you were just at FAU and thinking of just your preparation to that. What do you enjoy most? And it gets past the leadership, and let's get past then like the specific training and development of your players.
Yeah, definitely. When you say that, for me, love being on the field. Hitting is my passion. So BP, and anybody that knows me or has played in a program I've been associated with is laughing at this part because I love on-field BP. Like that's my favorite 45, 50 minutes of the day. As I tell our guys, like nobody's going to hit on the field as much as we do. And that's my sweet spot. That's my favorite 50 minutes of the day right there is the on-field BP part.
So like you must have some like go-to like on-field BP routines or like, what you care to do. Like, so here's a question. Like, how do you make on-field BP game-like? Like, what do you do to make it game-like on the field?
Sure. Well, actually, Trey, I'm fortunate I get to speak at the ABCA convention in January. And this is my exact topic right here.
Let's do this. I'm going to be there too. So I'll be there. That'd be great.
I can't tell all my stuff, right? I got to save some
right.
of it.
We'll be good. This is like
January.
a rehearsal then, like you just kind of feel it out. We can throw it out there.
This is my BP for the game then, right?
That's right. This is your on-field BP right here.
So for the most part, our rotation is going to be one day it's coach BP, the next day it's machine. And we usually, if we hit 6 days a week, it's probably going to be 3 coach, 3 machine. We have machine days where it's just fastball. We have machine days where it's fastball and breaking ball. And I'm talking on the field now, double machine. We have just about every day when we go coach, there's going to be rounds where they don't know what's coming. We'll do every once in a while feel good BP, just laying fastballs in there and let them launch baseballs. But it's going to be scripted out, like the 5-6 rounds of BP. It's going to be scripted out for them. They're going to know what the goal is each round. They get, I'm not going to use the word repetitive, but I would hope that we're recycling the good ones. And when they see the round on the sheet, it's posted right on the turtle. It's posted in the dugout. It's posted in the locker room. When they see the sheet, like they know what the goal is, that I've hopefully have coached that particular round and what the goal and what we're trying to accomplish with that round is, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yep. So I guess it's just like a checker minus, or could it also be like a grade of like X of velocity, or like I drove this ball or hit this ball over?
Well, 2 parts to that. We chart all of our on-field BP. We have a manager standing right there with a clipboard, and we simplify it as much as hard hit or not.
Okay.
That's it. And we grade it. And at the end of each day, we'll send it out. We'll rank the players. We had 16 hitters this fall. We'll rank 1 through 16 hard hit percentage for the day. We'll do the week. And then we just did the whole semester, the whole fall, and just sent that out to the guys. But, like the first typical round for me, I like guys to get on top and hit low line drives right back through the middle. So, to answer your question specifically, Trey, that would be like the goal. And the guys know if they see through the middle, it's first round, we're going to get on top, get through the baseball, try to knock over the L screen.
Okay. Oh man, that's super cool. So it's very offensive driven. So from the hitter standpoint, do you mix in any base running or defense during your on-field BP?
Yeah, always. I say always. The vast majority of the time, there's 4 rotations, usually 4 guys in a group. So you have the on-field BP group. You have the defensive group. Outfielders playing with balls live off the bat. The infielders are typically doing some sort of fungo. It might be just fungos, throw it in. It might be fungos, get one. It might be feeds and turns, double plays. There's going to be a group in the cage. We're going to have 2 cages, 2 guys in each cage, and there's going to be 2 specific drills that they're going to know the goal and the purpose of those drills. And then there's going to be a base running station where typically we do 3 rounds of base running, and it's based off of round 1 of the hitter's BP. We're usually at first doing this, round 2 we're at second doing this, round 3 we're at third doing this. And that would be like, I'm not a yeller, Trey, but when the guys get yelled at, it's usually they mess up in the base running drill. Like that to me is, again, you hear it all the time, and I hate to be this guy, but most of the players we get coming in as freshmen are not good base runners. I would put them in the bad base runner category, and I'm of the belief that you can improve it. And most guys, if they focus on it during BP, because we do it every day, become good base runners, like learning to freeze on the line, learning not to run second to third on the comebacker to the pitcher, learning to put the ball behind you at second, when to go halfway, when to tag at second base, all that stuff. So the base running is a big part of it. And most guys, when they come into the program, that they think base running, they just go to the base. When the guy hits the ball, they run to the next one. Like it's way more than that. And they learn,
Yeah. And it comes from like, too cold. I mean, if they're coming from a good program that does teach it, they know the expectations of it. It's just like, because they're like in practice, like they're just jogging around, and like there's a part of like, I know that you're trying to make it life where like if it's a line drive, they are freezing or getting back to the base, and some guys are just like they're just not taking it as seriously. Where like at your level, you got to make sure that you're practicing it the way that you're going to, and you're going to putting it as serious as you are. It's almost like the maturity factor too.
Well, my thing they hear me say all the time is, if you're going to spaz out base running and BP, we got no chance during a game. If you can't control yourself and freeze on the line in BP, how in the world are you going to do it when, you're playing in a real baseball game and the adrenaline's going?
No shot. Awesome. What do you chart anything? So is all the charting is just offensive? Is there any defensive charting? Anything on defensive you charting?
Not with our own guys. To me, that's eyeball stuff, right? Like you can see that, from the eyeball, specifically during BP, any defensive work. I'm a practice at the speed you're going to play type guy. Can't stand guys taking fungos flat-footed, not gaining ground, not working through the baseball. We're always in the outfield and infield when we're playing balls off the bat. We're always going to do pre-pitch reads. We're not going to stand straight up. That's another teaching point, specifically when most high school guys are coming in. They're just used to standing there, and then they think their job is to go practice catching the fly ball. Like, no, your job, we're working on the first step, the angle, the read. That's what we're trying to get better with. We know you can catch the fly ball in the outfield or take the right angle in the infield.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's a great point. That's a great point. We're really just trying to work on your first step, pre-pitch. We know you can catch the ball. That's really good. It's really good. And you said you typically play them in. You typically play your outfit in. Is that what you said during BP?
No, I was gonna say, maybe you're reading my mind, Trey. I was gonna say, a lot of times with guys' deficiencies, so the outfielder, we have a freshman right now that has not been great with the ball over his head.
Yeah.
So he knows he's going to play 15 feet shallower in BP than what he'd play in a game, just to try to get as many balls,
more reps over his head.
Ball over his head. Yeah. Most guys, we want them to play at the same exact depth they're going to play during the game, but there's some exceptions to that.
Sure. But I love, so speaking of that, so like the individualization within your BP and setting and things like that, do you have rounds in there for the little slap guy that you have, and then your big 4, 5, 6 that they are not going to bunt?
Right. No, that to me, that's my job as the hitting coach and as the head coach, is guys to know who they are, what their strengths are, and how we're going to use them this spring, so they can practice. Again, we want them to practice who they're going to be in the spring. So the guy that can't hit the ball over the outfielder's head, he is obviously trying to hit as many low line drives as he can. And I'm a little different with our guys that have power, which we've got a pretty good number of guys at Delaware that have power. I want them to hit home runs. I want them to hit doubles in batting practice. I want them to practice and be able to get to that swing consistently. So yeah, but as far as you mentioned the bunting part, everybody's going to bunt in our program in practice, because I have to learn who can actually bunt come game time.
Sure.
And we're not going to bunt much sacrifice wise, but I need to figure out who can and who can't. So we do we bunt every day off the machine when we hit off the machine. And we'll do a lot of what I call total rounds. So it might be 6 total, and you're leading off with a sack bunt with a man on second. And if you get it down in 1 try, well, you get 5 swings, Trey. If it takes you 3 tries to get the bunt down, well, you only get 3 swings. So bad bunters coming into our program figure out really quick how to be good bunters, because they start losing a lot of swings and the way our BP is set up. And then we finish a lot of our rounds off the machine with a bunt hit, with shifting still allowed in college baseball. And, everybody now having synergy in college baseball and knowing who bunts and who doesn't, and watching it on video. You need to get down some bunt hits early in the season so people don't shift against you, or the third baseman has to play up against you as well. So I want all of our guys to have the ability to bunt for a hit.
That's a great point. I think it's a super solid point, and just being able to get the bunt down so that way you don't shift, and then be able to keep them honest, which should then essentially give you more chance of being successful in the long run. It's an awesome point. Awesome point. So I was just thinking like, I guess the individualization within each of the rounds is like, okay, when I'm looking for like the backside, or like I'm looking like trying to go oppo, like low liners, my big guy, my 4.56, those guys that you said you want to fill that swing, like your swing is not that low line. Your swing is, I want you to challenge the fence. Is that the individual, is the based on the hitter?
Yes. And I would hope, and I feel strongly about this, if you would pull aside any of our hitters at Delaware and say, hey, what's Coach Mams want you to do during BP? They should very specifically be able to tell you. And the power hitters should be able to tell you, when I get a ball down the middle, he wants me to hit it here. When I get it inner third, he wants me to hit it here. When it's outer third, he wants me to hit it here. Like I break the plate into thirds, and the guys know what they should be doing in BP and drill work with the ball in those thirds. And that's what we do in training, and BP is training. And then come game time, I'm a big believer. We don't rise to the occasion. We fall back to our training. So come game time, if we've trained appropriately, we shouldn't have to think about where to hit the baseball. It should just be all see ball, hit ball, be aggressive type of mindset, one positive thought mindset, because that's how we've practiced. But to answer your question, yeah, our guys know like what their goals are with the ball, depending on the third. And, with everybody has a less than 2-strike approach, and everybody has a 2-strike approach, and those all vary, by the hitter as well. Individualized.
Sure. Yeah. So like what, and then, so yeah, I love how like even like a 2-strike approach is different. So like, can you dive in a little about 2-strike approach? Because there's definitely so many different philosophies out there, and just kind of how guys teach it. Is it like, again, based off the biggest guy, are you allowing certain guys to strike out more? Because you see that somewhat in the game, and then other guys who don't have that skill set, they need to make sure that they're doing everything they can to not strike out.
Right. I try to avoid talking about striking out, not striking out.
Ooh, good.
I think our job as hitting coaches, Trey, is to take away fears from the hitter. And I think when guys are trying not to strike out, you're instilling fear. And that's not how we want to play with our guys in our program. So as I tell our guys, every swing is going to be aggressive, but guys are going to do different things physically. Some guys are going to box adjust, get closer to the plate, maybe move up in the box with 2 strikes. Some guys maybe get a little bit wider. Some guys shorten their leg kick. Some guys choke up. Some guys start with their hands in a different position. But inevitably, we still want an aggressive swing. We've got to back the baseball up. We're going to play deeper in the zone with our contact with 2 strikes than we are with less than 2 strikes, sort of thing. But in the end, like, as I tell them, we still want to hit doubles. We still want to hit home runs with 2 strikes, because half of our results, half of at-bats in college baseball roughly get to a 2-strike count. So we still have to be able to put up production and numbers with 2 strikes on us. It's not for me in college baseball with our hitters in our program, just put it in play.
Absolutely.
I know that's not the popular thing to say right now on social media, but I just, the just put it in play in college baseball typically doesn't add up to a lot of scoring. And obviously I'm not promoting striking out, because, we are 2-strike adjusting. We're not going to just keep going up there and flailing at pitches like we might with less than 2 strikes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think even when you're just putting in play, again, you're going against that aggressive mindset too. You know what I mean? Like, you're going aggressive. Like you said, you're starting that, and I love that where you say like we don't talk about striking out. We talk about again, that's all the the power of language. And like you said, I think a lot of guys talk about not striking out, not striking out, not striking out, and then striking out, because that's all we're thinking about, instead of, like you said, make an adjustment, 2-strike adjustments, 2-strike adjustments. That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah, to me, the difference for me, the mindset difference, Trey, is I want them to fear not getting off aggressive swings, not hitting balls hard. I don't want them to fear striking out.
Mm-hmm. Fear not getting off aggressive swings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I love that. Love that. Yeah, especially just love that the competitiveness, and then, like, because you see that a lot, like with guys, like, or that's what they should. They definitely should fear not being able to get that off, because you see guys like maybe taking a pitch they shouldn't have. Like if they were of the mindset, I can't leave this at bat without getting my swing off, having an aggressive swing, it would eliminate that.
Yeah.
Give more opportunity, I guess you can say, more success to get it off. Super cool. That's great. Two-strike approach. Yes, sir. Really like that. And you said, each player, through the training and through the conversations you've had with them, kind of know who they are, and if they're like I said, box adjustment, hands adjustments, things like that.
Yes, and much of that has been dictated by them.
Sure.
I am a definite, probably to a fault, definitely to a fault, when guys first get on campus, letting them go and learning their swing, learning their approach, sort of thing, before I start to, we got to make this change. We got to make this adjustment. So I'd rather them show me what has worked or what they think has worked for them with two strikes. And if it is, then my job as a hitting coach is to keep my mouth shut. If it's not, then my job is to work with them to give them something that's going to allow them to have more success with two strikes.
Yeah, and that's essentially what you recruit them for.
Yeah.
In essence, I know they're not going to have near as much failure as what they are with you, but essentially there was a skill set that they have, and that's the reason that they were there.
Correct.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome. What else did I talk about? We talked about two-strike approach. I forget what we had mentioned before that. Breaking the plate into thirds. That was a cool thing you had to mention. Some guys break it up into fifths. I see numbers on the plate. Like, do you work on like ball striking in the thirds?
I talk more so again about what we would like to have happen with the ball on the thirds. And the thing I find myself coaching the most is actually the middle third.
Oh,
Trey,
yeah.
believe it or not, because, and I'm a big believer of this, like for little league, high school, and big leagues, the ball in the middle third of the plate should be hit to the middle of the field. But the college guy, most of the guys we have, when they hit a ball good, it goes 360 to 380. And 360 to 380 in college baseball to the middle of the field is usually an out.
Yeah.
360 to 380 when pulled is usually a home run.
Right.
So to me, most of our guys that have power, that 360 to 380 power, we're trying to get them to pull the baseball in the air, the one middle third. And that is new for most of them. It's completely different than how they've been coached, and rightfully so. Like, you wouldn't teach a little league kid, a 15, 16-year-old without power, to pull the ball down the middle, hit it through the middle, right? That's the biggest hole. That's the easiest hit, is the middle of the field. So that's the third I find myself coaching the most. Second most would certainly be the inner third. Most high school guys have an inside out swing that we get. So that's the swing path, the swing change of staying tight, learning how to get the inner third pitch in the air, pull side, is a big coaching point for me as well. Most guys coming in are really good already with the ball on the outer third. Like, that's the one that I find myself having to coach the least. That's the one that guys have seemed, to have practiced by far the most coming into our programs.
They're just wearing it out. Yeah, wearing out the outside corner. Because that's how I was going to ask you, especially with like your bigger kids, your kids that really have some pop, like, because that's what it kind of sounds like. Are there kids that even on the outer third, because you see it in the big league level, you see it guys in the professional hitters, like they wouldn't have the shift that they didn't continually try to pull the ball.
Right.
So like, what it sounds like is that you are teaching more kids to pull the ball and pull the ball more often.
Oh yeah. And that's, I know that's a separator for me from most hitting guys, is I want the ball down the middle third of the plate pulled for most of our guys, not all of them, for most. But the ball outer third to me should go either oppo or middle. I know there's some freaks out there. There's a lot in the big league that can hit that ball in the gap out of the park pull side, but that's not I haven't coached many of those guys. For me, that
Sure.
ball should go the other way or through the middle at worst.
Sure.
The third.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I just wondering your case. I was just curious what your take on that was, especially like we said, if you're hitting a 360, 380, like that ball needs that ball needs pulled. But yeah, that's interesting. Because I have found, and I'm under more of impression. It's funny you say that because like the more and more I find guys who are more advanced hitters, at every they're able to really turn on a ball and keep it fair. Like really like the 90 on the hands, like you're able to get on it and get through it and just be able to keep it fair. Not like they just they're on it or they might be too early and they hook it foul. I just find like a good direction to be able to really keep it fair and tight on the inner half. Like that guy's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, that's the fear. I feel like most people are afraid to talk about and teach the pull.
Yeah.
They're afraid of front side leaving, afraid of not being able to hit off speed pitches, afraid of hooking baseballs. But, we work and talk so much about hitting baseballs straight, like that's all the swing path to me. And about the importance of staying closed and not cheating to do it. And obviously, if we start to see it, one of our hitters is starting to cheat to pull, then we've got to go back and change him to make sure he's staying closed and he's thinking middle to oppo at that point.
Is that what you basically do? Like you said, you basically change him to think middle oppo just to kind of slow him down. And so it's really more like the thought.
Well, the example I used with the guy that's flying open, we're going to think middle oppo to keep him closed. We know guys can't have success coming open early, right? Like we've got to stay in rhythm. The kinetic chain has to work. And whenever it's not working, when guys are front side leaving early, then to me, the hopeful quick fix is to change the target shoot center field, right center, or opposite field, for the guy.
What's the best kind of drill work do you find out for guys to help them with direction? Let's just start with direction, and then maybe like direction to be able to pull the ball. Yeah,
I'm a target shooter, so we're gonna pick out targets on the fence or behind the fence or on the field, and we're gonna, that's gonna be the external cue that we're just gonna try to get guys to. Believer in external cueing, Trey, where most athletes, when you give them a target to try to hit and a goal to try to do with the baseball, usually they can organize their body to do it. If they can't, now it's probably time to break it down a little bit more with some other non-traditional drills, I guess, instead of just doing it traditionally with BP. But most of my, like when I'm doing early work and trying to maybe make some swing or adjustment changes with guys, like it's usually we're going to warm up off the tee. We're going to do a few flips, and the vast majority of it is going to be a coach throwing overhand or a machine. And we're going to target shoot and try to accomplish our goal with the baseball. And again, I like to do it on the field because I want them to see the trajectory of the baseball. Are we hitting it straight? Are we hitting it with backspin? Are we getting in the air, pull side, all that stuff?
I like that. All right. I mean, I guess the challenge. So, like, what kind of challenges do you face trying to have them hit on the field all the time?
Well, it can't be the same BP over and over. Like, there's got to be variety. Again, like the energy has to be provided from the coaches and the players both, right? Like, at what point you start to see like lack of, and I hate to use the word energy, it's overused now, but when you start to recognize, all right, this is becoming going through the motions, well, any good coach is going to back off and we're going to do something different, right? We got to keep the focus and we got to keep continuing to get better. And if we're just going through the motions, we're certainly not getting better. So it's about that. But, like the music going, the competition of it being charted, the guys understand the importance of BP in our program, and BP is usually hard in our program. We're making it or trying to make it harder than the game to make the game easier. So it's really hard for our guys to get, I think, overly comfortable with what we do during BP.
And that's a newer like I said, you've been doing it 23 years. Has BP always been hard for you? Like if you always made
Absolutely not. Like biggest regret for me, and I think probably a lot of guys in my era of coaching, is BP was always super easy, right? Like it was almost always just laying fastballs in and, whatever your approach was, having the guys hit to that approach. And in fact, I can remember first getting a hack attack. I was a hitting coach at the University of Cincinnati, Trey, getting a hack attack. I was out recruiting in Arizona, and the games are in the afternoon and evening. And during the day, I was walking around watching spring training, and it's really convenient in Arizona. Like they're all really close. It's not like Florida where they're spread out all over the complexes. Like I could go watch 2, 3, 4 teams a day, just walk around, and I'm watching them do everything: defense, catchers receiving, hitting off of hack attacks. I'd never seen a hack attack. I got back to Cincinnati and told my boss, Brian Cleary, like, we got to order a hack attack. And we did, and we set that bad boy up on the mound, and the guys are getting the bats blown out of their hand, and they're complaining. They hated it. And one of my biggest regrets is I gave in to them, and we would only use it then in the cage in a more comfortable setting instead of on the field. And I'm like, I did them such a disservice. Like if I would have made them fight through it and figure out how to have success against the hack attack on the field, we would have been a better offensive team without question. I know that now, and I think everybody's had that moment. It probably came too late or later for me than it should have. So no, like I would tell you, probably not. The last 7, 8 years is when I've really started to buy in and have not given in to the players that BP is not going to be easy. Occasionally it will be. We'll have Feel Good Friday here and there late in, but the vast majority of the time, we're going to make this hard, and you're going to get good at doing it, and you're going to be better in the games as a result.
Yeah, like, you're going to get better. Like, even the stamp of like being able to keep yourself being comfortable, being uncomfortable, that whole process. Most guys just, that's what it is. Like they're upset because they're uncomfortable. Like now, like if you can feel that and then still keep yourself moving and keep yourself going, keep a level head, like that's the game.
Yeah.
That's the game. So yeah, like how do you gauge, like is it still once a week that you still throw in the feel good, or is it kind of like when you're just is that still just a feel thing for you? Like, hey, I think we need to stop beating them up so much.
It's definitely a feel thing.
Yeah.
I never like in my mind be like, all right, we got to give them feel good. It's just I'll watch and I can just tell like, all right, we've beat these guys up. Or sometimes we've had sometimes you just can't get the hack attack. You can't get it to a day sometimes where they're having a lot of success. The breaking ball's nasty. The fastball's got too much ride. You can't get the dials where you want them, and you beat them up. And I'm like, all right, tomorrow's definitely a feel good day. Like these guys had really low success rate. They got chewed up yesterday in BP. Let's let them feel good tomorrow. And there's value in them seeing themselves have success. Like they need to see the ball, the power hitters going over the fence in the gap, the line drive hitters hitting a lot of line drives. And at some point you got to let them have some success. Right. So, yeah.
That's cool. And that's great. Like you said, and you mentioned before is like, you want them to feel them getting that swing off, and so they gotta be able to do that, and feel that. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun. So that was good. I was just wondering because it's like the Astros. I think the Astros has also ones that have made that pretty public. How they have, people they were getting sawed off during BP, and people were like, "What in the world are you doing?" And then here they are.
Yeah.
So that's a unique way of training for sure. But it's good. Like it's just more game like. How have you taken that? Have you taken that kind of philosophy into other phases of the game?
Yes. Not as easy to do, I think, in other phases of the game, right? Like I think pitching coaches are figuring out how to do it in a bullpen setting, in a practice setting with infielders. Like we're trying to get them on the stopwatch as much as possible, just to give them that internal clock, trying to make it as game-like and challenging as possible anytime we're making throws. we're going to have a goal usually under 4.3 to get it to first base, to get the out, like that sort of thing. Can do it a lot with outfielders off the machine. A lot of times we'll start just shooting multiple fly balls, see like there might be 5 fly balls and how many out of the 5 can they catch? And it's just, you're shooting one every second out of the machine, making it tough on them. They're turning their back on the machine. They're starting on their stomach, like just, I guess when you say that, that's what I think of is constantly trying, instead of just hitting fungos to the outfielders, let's make it really hard on them. And it's enjoyable, right? Like that's the guys, they don't want somebody just standing there hitting fungos. Their little league coach did that. Like stick them in the hack attack, shoot them 400 feet high and shoot 5 of them in a row. Let me see how many I can catch. That's fun, coach. And
that's right.
Again, now when the guy hits me the towering fly ball in a game, that's easy compared to what I had to catch at practice yesterday.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's what I was wondering. It's just how else, and then, making things live. Cause I know like a big thing for me, like just segmenting all this stuff is, how, cause you think you wouldn't go into a basketball practice and never see them scrimmage. Like you see them 5-on-5 a good bit, it's just like, but in baseball, it's just that, we've got a lot of, it's just different, and like, how do you create more of that live scenario?
Yeah. No, we've definitely come a long way, I think, in college baseball and baseball in general with that, Trey, in the last 5-10 years, right? With how we practice, exactly to your point. I just felt like major leaguers can practice probably at 50-75% speed and go out and perform at game speed. And I think a lot of our training in college baseball and on down through high school youth baseball mirrored what was happening in the big leagues. And everything was easy and everything was done at 50-75%. And we know now, like, that's typically not the best way to practice at any level of baseball. Maybe the big leagues. I haven't been there. I don't know, but certainly not in college. Like we gotta do practice different, right?
I think that is such a great point. Major leagues can offer to do that. They're playing 180 games every day. Like their practice is going to look a little different. And they are those. They're also very different, compared to the normal person. That's for certain. But very good, very, very interesting perspective there. Major leagues can practice very same. We were all probably doing like that, but I think coaching is getting better. I think, like you said, podcasts, information is certainly easier to get. And I think we're all just, everybody's getting a little bit better. I think that's where the game has certainly grown.
For sure.
Guys like yourself and willing to share and go to the ABCA, and that'll be great. That'll be great to see you there, Coach. That'd be awesome. That's your first time speaking at ABCA?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Excited, nervous, right? Like I never spoke obviously in front of that many people. So, there's a lot of already anxiety for it, but I'm also excited to have the opportunity. It's a great stage, and I've been going to the convention for years. And, you sit there and listen to people, and everybody, I think, in the audience is like, man, I'd love the opportunity to get up there someday as well. Right. And I'm getting it. So I'm fortunate.
Yeah, take advantage of that, man. I'm sure you'll do great. Especially just, I could tell you do. You love to talk some BP, talk some hitting. That's great. Yeah, that's awesome. So how was that? That was a good rehearsal then for it. That was pretty good. Wasn't too much.
I did all right.
Did all right. I thought you did a great job. But oh man, just kind of wrapping things up now, Coach. Is there? Do you feel like, I guess, like, kind of wrapping everything up? I know we've been here over an hour. Is there something that maybe we haven't touched that you feel like you want to shed some light on?
Well, if you can give me the next hour, I'll talk about the University of Delaware if there's any recruits that want to hear about it. But that's probably not the case. But no, I appreciate you giving me this forum, Trey. Again, like this is good for me, as you said, a rehearsal for the ABCA, but also to sell Delaware and hopefully myself to the audience. And you never know who's listening. Maybe there's a recruit out there that's listening that we're gonna want here in the near future, and this helped. So I appreciate you giving me this platform, this opportunity. I feel like we all have an obligation to, as you said in the beginning of the podcast, grow the sport. I feel like, so many people have done that for us in our lives that we're still involved with baseball at our ages, that we owe it to everybody else to continue to grow this great sport for, our youth and other coaches any way we can. It's done so much for me in my life, and I'm happy in any way I can to spread it on to anybody else. It's an obligation that we have.
Coach Mamula, just crushing it. I just love the conversation that we were to have. Fortunate to be able to get a chance to talk to him, such as another unique situation, taking over a program, understanding the culture, just hearing the passion he talks about with running the offense, doing his on-field BP. Super cool stuff. Can't wait to see him at the ABCA. Hopefully see you guys there. Looking forward to it. I'm going to actually probably do another giveaway for our journals, our Better Men, Better Ball Player journals. Looking forward to that. Just a little brief recap of Mams, stuff that really stuck out to me. Just him taking part of the leadership, understanding taking a new thing. We hear guys talk a lot about just being lifelong learners and how he just took to that, learned something new, make it part of his program. Here he is, brand new program, taking her first year head coach, being at Division I, and being that fearless. Look, I'm going to dive into this leadership training. We're going to do this. We're going to make it part of what we do every day. That fearlessness, doing that, taking on that, it's awesome. That's the kind of leadership that those guys are getting it. So that's awesome. Just love this captain's idea. Just how we're all leaders, leaders of our own life. We got to be able to leave our households. We got to lead our families. We got to leave our jobs. We are leaders of our own life, so we're training everyone to be leaders. So we're not going to have just certain captains. Really cool, interesting there way. And then just getting into the BP, charting it all and ranking hard hit percentage. I think there is the money spot there. Totally on board. Love that. And then also just making accountability within the bunting. Total rounds. You're losing swings when you don't get the bunt down. You want 6 swings? Great, get your bunt down. If not, you get less and less swings. The individualization within the 2-strike adjustments, whether that might be on the plate, just depending on it. Again, that comes from his communication, his relationship with his hitters, to knowing what they're going to do in the box. So, super cool stuff. Loved it, Coach Mams. Appreciate you. Thanks for all you're doing. And thank you guys for hanging out with us here on another episode of the podcast. Love it. Can't wait till the next time. And until then, keep getting better.